Hello and welcome. My name is Raymond Ijeomah, and I'm a real estate entrepreneur as well as a property lawyer here in Nigeria. This video is brought to you by Fortreal Rei Ltd. And in this particular video, we're going to be discussing some factors, some things you must, as a matter of MUST, must consider before you invest in Abuja. There's a lot of good happening here. Because there's a lot of good happening here, it also attracts certain bad elements or certain things that make it or create a possibility for it to become bad business, right? So, and that's basically, so in this particular video, we're going to be talking about 5 very important things you must look at, you must consider before ever dropping 1 naira, 1 kobo, $1 in investment in Abuja. And the very first one that we're going to talk about in this particular video is the location. I choose to start with that, and I need you to watch to the very end of this video because the very last point is one that you need to take very importantly. The very first one here is location. The truth about it is, first, anywhere you choose to invest in Abuja is good. Anywhere you choose to invest in Abuja is a potential city. As a matter of fact, some parts of Nasarawa have experienced massive development because of proximity to Abuja. So that is even to show that the oil that is flowing in Abuja, or the oil of investment flowing in Abuja, extends to neighboring places. And so for such neighboring places, they even sell properties or lands almost at the same rate as those within those areas in Abuja, since they are very close to Abuja. Right? So that simply just tells you that even neighbors are enjoying from the idea or the concept of Abuja as a federal capital territory. So yes, I'm using that to say that anywhere you invest in Abuja generally is good investment. However, you have to also consider a number of factors before you invest. You have to look at certain areas, certain factors. Why do you want to do this investment? For what purpose are you carrying out this investment or purchase? So if you're looking at rental income, immediate rental income, then you don't want to go to certain places. If you're looking at, and of course that also boils down to how much you have. If you're looking at appreciation, then you may not want to. So there's this concept that I try to explain to clients, that some properties have certain levels that they get to, and appreciation is no longer at a consistent high rate. Let me explain it. So a property in Maitama, for example, can, as at today, be going for, say, let's use as an example, 100 million naira. Now, that property at 100 million naira, yes, if you buy it as land, not a building now, if you buy it as land, what happens is that it's okay, it's good investment. I'm not disputing that, but I'm simply saying that the rate of appreciation that property may experience if you buy it today is not the same appreciation or level of appreciation that it will experience when you buy it in a developing area. Maitama is considered developed. The rate of appreciation in a place like Maitama will never be the same, or will not be the same as a place like, or compared to a place like Lugbe or Lukogoma that is developing. So if you are looking at investing for appreciation, you shouldn't be putting 100 million naira in Maitama. You rather should be putting 100 million naira in Lugbe or any other developing area, because the appreciation you are going to get is completely different. Let's say, for example, a place like Maitama may be experiencing appreciation at, say, 2%, 3, 4, 5%, max, say 10% per annum. Why a place like Lugbe, Lokogoma, Edu, and some other developing areas can give you as high as 200% appreciation per annum? I'll give you a practical example. We checked out a property sometime last week, and the property was launched at 4 million somewhere in Lugbe behind the Glory Dome. And in 2 years, that same property is going for 17 million naira. That is appreciation. So, in terms of location, why you are buying will help you consider or determine your or help you decide where you should consider. So if you're looking at appreciation, then you want to consider a developing area rather than a developed area. If you're looking at rental income, you may want to know, if you have the funds, you may want to consider investing in a developed area rather than a developing area. So it's just something that you want to consider. So, but generally, location, as far as Abuja is concerned, everywhere is good, So in terms of investing in Abuja, the location is critical, and then your purpose will help you determine which location you should consider investing in. And second thing you must pay attention to before you invest is the issue of documentation. Now, by virtue of the Land Use Act, 1978, Abuja is a federal capital territory, of course, and by virtue of that, that law sort of has first and primary impact in the city of Abuja. So in terms of, by virtue of that, lands in Abuja generally belong to the federal government. So you expect that there's level of land administration in Abuja that are supposed to be sophisticated or organized. However, there are certain issues here and there. There's AMAC on one side, there's AGs on one side, and then there is the local on one side. However, where you should pay attention to the issue of documentation is you may be getting the wrong title from the wrong entity for a particular location. So what you should pay attention to is, for this particular land in this location, under which jurisdiction within the FCT does it fall under? So part of your priority should be knowing under what administration you are coming under when you are buying. So like I said, you have AMAC. So if you're getting a document, you should be getting documents from AMAC, as it were. If you're looking at getting under FCT, you should know where or the type of document that you are going to get, so that you don't have issues at the end of the day. There are some old AMAC title or lands that now require certain regularization to fall under FCDA. So when you look at all of that, it just makes it very clear to you that in as much as there is good land administration here, in quote, you also have to be careful to get the right documentation. I think that clarifies that. So before you invest in Abuja, yes, it is good investment, but pay attention to documentation. I've over time, as a lawyer, experienced it, and usually it doesn't end well. The clients just prioritize location over documentation. It is a no-no. Prioritizing the physical location of the land as against the documentation is a no-no. And that is why most persons complain about demolition now. The truth about it is, in as much as there's certain political affiliations to this thing, but the truth about it is, when you have the right documentation, generally, nobody is going to demolish your property. And as a matter of fact, even if there's going to be with the right documentation, you can ask for compensation. So it is the documentation that helps to secure or ensure the sustainability of what you bought, or that would stop it from being demolished, right? So there should never be any point as an investor that you would consider the location more important than the title or the documentation. That's the point I needed to make. It is 50-50. The location is as important as the documentation. The documentation is as important as the location. They both work collaboratively to ensure that you have the best and most sustainable investment. All right. Now, the third thing I'm going to have to talk about is the developer. Who are you working with? Abuja has been built, or Abuja is developed to the point where there are lots of real estate companies, a lot of developers within the city. Where I would need to quickly just point or just clarify here is the type of developer that you deal with matters a lot. There are some that truly develop. there's a joke that we usually just laugh over here within the sector. There are certain people who call themselves developers, but actually they're not just developers. They are marketing companies, or they just buy land and sell. So a friend of mine said that they're just real estate companies. They are not developers. However, I mean, anybody can call him or Anybody can be a developer. Anybody can. It's easier to use the word developer in a title, as a title, than to be a developer in real life. So the point in that is some companies just buy land and sell, while some others are real developers. So if you're looking at somewhere that you want to really get appreciation for your land, then you want to consider dealing with developers and not just people who are buying and selling, traders in this sector, right? So the developer you're working with also matters. The integrity of the developer, what the developer can do. I was having a conversation with a consultant in the sector prior to this recording. She was making it clear that even though the company had gotten title to where they are working on, but they later realized that there's little adjustment had to be made to the master plan because the drainage had to pass through. But by virtue of that, it didn't mean that the land wasn't genuine. It simply meant that an adjustment had to be made, and the company had to get another place and relocated all the clients. Now, it takes a developer with integrity to do that. It takes a real developer to do that, who understands and prioritizes client interest. So third thing you need to consider while investing or before you invest in Abuja is the person or the developer, the company you want to buy from or you want to work with. And the fourth thing you want to consider is your budget, your money. You know how deep your pocket is. So it's rather fair that you determine what you want first before you begin to call a company like Fortreal Rei Ltd to get something for you. I'll just merge this up with the last point I needed to make, which is purpose. So you know that you just want to buy and invest, and what you have is, say, 5 million. Respectfully, with all sense of humility, I think you have no business requesting for a location like Maitama or Asokoro. You don't, respectfully, I mean, as humble as I can be, I just need you to accept it, that you don't have any business requesting for those areas or such areas. You rather should pay attention to developing areas. And in fact, for some developing areas, even that 5 million won't do it. So your budget determines what you get. And while I would say that your budget is important, I also would say that if you do this with a touch of foresight, you will understand that, like I said a moment ago, every city, every point in Abuja is a potential city. It's good for investment, right? So with your 5 million, it's rather okay for you to be humble. You say, okay, don't worry, it's 5 million I have, Raymond. It's 5 million I have. Just give me something that I would appreciate over time. It doesn't have to be in the heart of town. It doesn't have to be in the CBD. It doesn't have to be anywhere close to town. But it's going to develop over time. So no need to consider or say it's far. Every city was once a bush, and every bush has the potential to become a city, right? So I mean, we have a video on this YouTube channel where I compared Abuja in 1980 and 2022, right? So it's a very simple logic. It can be far. It can even be Kurudu. Now we have a product in Kurudu that is going for, that was slashed from 6 million to 3.9 million. And for somebody, somebody can say, oh, it's not close to town, or it's not in town. But the truth about it is, everywhere was once a bush. Every part of Abuja was once a bush. So the point is, your budget will determine where you will get. And if your present budget cannot get you the Maitama of today, it can get you the Maitama of tomorrow. That is what you should focus on. So, ladies and gentlemen, I do hope that with these few points of mine, I would have possibly convinced you to invest safely and rightly in the city of Abuja. Again, this video was brought to you by Fortreal Rei Ltd, a real estate company registered here in Nigeria, and we were residents in Abuja and Benin City. And we basically bring you the very best of real estate investment in Nigeria. And as a matter of fact, we're not a do one-time transaction. We want to be part of your financial success story as you journey to sustainable wealth through real estate investment in Nigeria. So we want to be part of that journey. So if you need investments, or you need lands that you want to invest into, or properties, we're available to bring it home to you, and be there to ensure that you're able to build sustainable wealth through real estate investment. So, ladies and gentlemen, please do subscribe to our YouTube channel and stay in touch with us. Turn on notifications so that you will always be notified whenever we bring amazing content like this very one. We also show you the developed and developing areas, educates you legally so that you know what to do, what not to do, and just be the best. So, ladies and gentlemen, bye bye.